This is the Peugeot 208. It's a lot like the Vauxhall Corsa, Ford Fiesta, or the Volkswagen Polo, except it was brought up on the glitzy streets of Paris. It's chic, it's cute, it will charge you €10 for a really small beer. Oh, and this one is electric. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the Peugeot 208 and the e-208 specifically. We're going to take it for a full walk around, have a look at the interior, the infotainment tech, the practicality, and of course, take it for a très bien joli drive avec croissance. Except we're in Portsmouth. What do they eat in Portsmouth? Sailors, probably. Let's get on with it. Now, I think Peugeot is absolutely killing it with styling at the moment. The 2008, the 3008, the 508 look especially good, and so does this. The 208 looks meaner than an Audi A1, I think, and more grown-up than a Fiesta. The last time I saw something this small look this good, it was my hamster wearing a tuxedo. And yeah, that's all because it's got these 3 daytime running lights here. Looks really mean with this spider fang coming down the side. And I have to congratulate Peugeot for still making cars in interesting colours. You can get this in a bright blue like this, or a bright yellow. There are some greys and reds as well, but this, it's just very eye-catching, and because it's the electric one, it's got a filled-in grille. Very, very chic. Not like me. Now, I'll be honest, it's not often I get excited about the interiors of cars these days, but the Peugeot 208's interior is so different. If you're coming from a Vauxhall or an Audi, this will blow you away in terms of quirkiness. For a start, you've got Peugeot's iCockpit, which is a small steering wheel and a digital display above it. So you look over the steering wheel, and I'm 6'3", and I can make it work. It is worth taking it for a test drive because sometimes the steering wheel can block the dials for some people. But otherwise, it's really nice in here. Because this is a GT model, I've got a big 10-inch infotainment system. It is 7 inches on lower spec ones. That's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you have to plug in for it. Thoughtfully though, Peugeot's given you a USB-C and an old school USB-A, so you've got a choice there. There's plenty of storage. There's a space under here, which is really deep. I could lose my arm in there. And also the material quality up here, if you prod the dashboard, it's all nice and squidgy. If you go for the doors, it's a little bit scratchy and cheap feeling there. And my other annoyance is that to adjust the aircon, you've got to use the touchscreen, which I always think is a bit of a faff and possibly a little bit dangerous when you're driving. Top spec models as well, I should point out, on the digital dash, it's got a 3D effect, which you can turn off, but it layers the information like a kind of digital sandwich. I quite like it. But yeah, the interior is genuinely one of the best in this class. Now, I'm 6'3", that's my driving position. I'm in the back seats of the 208, and it is a little bit cramped for me, to be fair. I've got quite a bit of headroom, but my knees are jammed into the seat, which is squidgy. My thighs jammed into the door, which is not squidgy, but I've got foot room under the seat. It is roomier than being in the back of an electric Fiat 500 or an electric Mini, but that's like saying a hobnob is better than a rich tea biscuit. We just know that. So yeah, I've got 2 USBs down here. I wouldn't want to be here for a particularly long time. The plastics are a bit scratchy. I've got electric windows on this GT spec one, but yeah, I kind of want to get out now. It's not great. Normally we would have filmed that really awkward back seat bit through the door, but as you can see, the rear door opening is really not that wide, which can make it tricky to fit child seats in my experience. So yeah, it's a little bit hard to get into, and once you're in there, it's not great either. You get 311 litres of boot space in the 208, and you get the same whether you go for the EV or the petrol one, which is quite rare, to be honest. Now, that is about the same amount of boot space as you get in a Ford Fiesta. If you want more in a small car, get a Skoda Fabia, because that's got 380 litres of boot space. That car is amazingly practical. If you want an electric car with a bigger boot, get a Renault Zoe. And obviously you can fold the seats down in this and give yourself more space. There's not much room under the boot floors, just space for locking wheel nuts. And that's about it. Let's go and drive it. That was probably a bit too dramatic. The first thing you notice is you've got a push button start on all models, not just this fancy top spec one. Now let's talk quickly about the engine lineup. On the electric side of things, you've got this, which has got a 50 kilowatt hour battery, 134 horsepower electric motor on the front wheels, and it's good for a range of about 217 miles officially. This one is saying 200 miles on a full charge, which is quite close to what they claim. The petrol version is a 1.2 litre. You get it with 100 or 130 horsepower with a manual or an 8-speed auto gearbox. I would just go for the 100 horsepower version because it's fast enough for most needs. The 130 is a little bit quicker, but it's a little bit more thirsty and a little bit more expensive. Now, in terms of the way this car drives, it is not as exciting to go around corners fast in as a Ford Fiesta, but it's comfortable and it's competent. It smothers bumps really quite well for a small car. It feels more grown up than the Fiesta, I would argue. and it's just really quite a nice thing to potter about in, whether you're around town or even on the motorway. At 70 miles an hour, there's not much wind noise in this car, which again, for a small car, is quite a big deal. Now, this top spec GT one is a really good city car. It's got front and rear parking sensors and a reversing camera. But not only that, it's got automatic emergency braking that can detect cyclists and pedestrians. So yeah, it's just a really well-rounded thing. Loads of kit for a small car. It's just not as exciting to drive as a Ford Fiesta, but sometimes you don't really want that. But anyway, that's enough waffle about how this drives. Let's go back to Motorpoint Portsmouth for a conclusion. One thing I haven't spoken about yet in this video is value. Brand new, an e-208 will cost you 34 grand, which is obviously a lot of money. This one's got 6,000 miles on. It's about a year and a half old. £20,000. That's a 14 grand saving over list. What could you do with 14 grand? I don't know. Put the heating on for the weekend? Something like that. But no, seriously, this is such a good small car. The only real downsides are those cramped back seats and a boot that isn't as big as rivals. I just love the way it looks. I like the way it drives. The electric version is just really complete, and 200-mile range in a small car is not to be sniffed at, frankly. And the petrol version is always available. So yeah, if I was going to give it a rating, I would give it 9 motor points out of 10. I've just invented a rating system. If you've liked this video, hit the like button. That's the one that looks a bit like this, but bigger and slightly more cartoony. And also subscribe to the Motorpoint channel, because we've got plenty more nearly new car reviews coming up very soon. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time when I won't be getting sunburnt in Portsmouth, which has never happened to anyone.